Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Iconic Life podcast, where we gather around the virtual tables for real, soulful conversations about what it means to live a life of calling, of wealth, joy, and purpose. I'm your host, Hannah Elsey. I'm the founder of Agora Wellness. I'm the creator of the Iconicity movement. I call myself a transformation midwife. I'm an overflow activator and a movement builder of a community of visionary women and men who are choosing to lead and live lives they are wildly in love with. Here, we don't do just that surface level chatter, we go deep. We talk about truth and the kind of stories that remind us that we are limitless when we are walking in our divine purpose and identity. When I say living iconically, here's what I mean by that. It's about remembering who you were created to be and choosing to live from that place fully and unapologetically. It's saying yes to your divine calling, even when it's messy, when it's chaotic, stretchy, and building wealth, legacy, and joy from a place of overflow. It's leading movements, it's raising families, and it's co creating a life that feels like art with our Creator. Because living iconically means you don't chase a dream, you are the dream. So today we're going to dive into that a little bit with my guest. I've got the lovely Gabby. Thank you so much for being here, Gabby. Welcome, welcome.
Wow, I've got goosebumps with your opening. It's so beautiful. We don't chase dreams, we are the dream. That's
Mm,
really, really, wow, hit a chord here in the heart. So thank you for having me, Hannah.
great.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we're getting to do this conversation. And so like I shared even before I hit record, this is a very informal spot. This is like you're pulling up a chair to my table, or you have your tea, I have my electrolytes. We're just having a deep, soulful, real conversation. So I don't have like a formal introduction for you, but I would love to just give you the stage for a moment. I want you just to introduce yourself a little bit more to our audience, our community, and like tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you're doing, where you're at in the world.
Okay, so thank you. Okay, so I used to introduce myself as I'm half Brazilian, half British, very much as if that's who I was or am. And I'm a mother and I work with healing and I'm also a spiritual guide. But to you, I want to just say I'm this passionate soul in a
Mm,
mission here on earth to support people to remember who they are. So, from the soul perspective, this is who I am. I'm really here to find life extraordinary again in every moment and to support
mm,
people in that as well. So it wasn't always easy, not at all, but I have this memory of when I was about 7 to 8 years old. I had just watched The Lion King and I cried because the father, right, Mufasa, died. And I remember it was really, really hard for me. And I was sitting in my house. I lived in São Paulo in Brazil back then.
mhm,
I was underneath a tree and I started to think about life and how scared it was. So I have this actual memory. And then suddenly, I just had this voice and this knowing that I wasn't going to die early because I started fearing my life actually, just thinking about death. And then it just this
mm.
knowing and this idea of a mission that was something big with women. And I was 7 to 8 years old.
Wow.
But the only reference I had back then was Madre Teresa of Calcutta. That was a nun, and so it was a little bit hard for me to picture what my life was going to be being a nun. But I did go into church, Christianity, because of her as well, a lot.
Mhm,
And so I'd say that my spiritual awakening and calling began when I was very little. And
mhm,
a lot to as well, Hannah, because coming from a country, a developing country, there was just so much inequality all around the whole
mm.
time. So I
Yeah.
could not understand why children could be, without food and in the cold, and I got to be privileged. And so I asked questions since I was very little, like why? And nothing really would answer that. to
Hmm.
me. So
Hmm.
I started to go. So I went into, my mother is a Buddhist, so I used to study a little bit of that. And then I went into Christianism, Kabbalah. And yes, and I suppose when my soul started to feel more whole was about 8 to 9 years ago.
Okay.
That's when and then I'm going to mention it in another moment, but I went through a really big trauma and I went to look for help. And this beautiful healer, she was also a therapist, she looked at me and said, God in me says hi to
Mm.
God in you. And then life started to make sense that it was all within and not out.
Mm.
So I went a very long way to tell you a little bit about
I love
how
that.
I see who I
Yeah.
am.
No, that's beautiful. It's funny you said that because you're like, how do I had this conversation with another friend about like, how do you describe yourself in a sentence or two? Because we are so multifaceted, right? And it's like every time you turn a little bit more, you get another glimpse of another aspect of this beautiful thing that is life, right?
Disco
So
ball.
yeah, no, a disco ball. That's actually yeah, what another girl said too as well. Because that's it. You turn, you get another hit of light off another fractal. Like it's so exquisite, right? And it's so detailed, and yet, and every time you look or turn, it's a different part. And I think that kind of is a nice picture of who we are in life as women, particularly. We can be so multifaceted. Um, and full in that, right? Like it creates this beautiful fullness as well. So I love that.
Do you mind if I just jump in just to add
Yeah,
something to that?
please.
Um, and depending on who you're talking to, the person is going to reflect back a part of you, right? And it's going to open up who you are. So that's a lot to do with the
Mm,
healing, with our quantum field. So depending if I could have another friend who's a practitioner and we could be doing the same technique. However, once we go to, into your body, let's suppose like to work on your energetics, each one might create a different, energy field to support you, right? So
right.
it's beautiful how our conversation here will bring us to one version and one side, or one aspect, and other
Yeah.
people just
Because I
by the
think we're each looking at it from our perspective as well, right? Don't you find like you said, you could have two healers doing like even similar work, but there's different outcomes. But I think it's based because it's playing off of each other, right? Like the different, yeah. Anyway, I love that. It's the exquisiteness of life.
exactly
There's
yeah,
it's never there's never just a one way, right? It's always like there's so many beautiful, differing perspectives. Like it's a
layers.
powerful thing.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so I think you did kind of start really, oh my goodness, like I was going to say, take us to a moment where you decided to shift. So you did kind of give us that little bit of that when you were talking about when you were a little girl. But I would like you to take us even deeper into this. Like when, as an adult, like when did you decide? Because I know for myself, I also had very early memories of knowing that I was made for more, right? And that there was a bigger thing. But I think life, society, all the different things kind of gets in the way and kind of either we back burner it or we hide it or that call, whatever, it gets kind of shoved to the back a little bit. So what was it when was it maybe like, when you were an adult, like, was there a specific moment that you can pinpoint where things really shifted for you? That was like a pivot point for you that you're like, I'm no longer going to live, on autopilot. I'm going to choose something different. And this is a different path that I'm going to walk on now.
Absolutely. Um, So I did have those moments as a child, I
Hmm.
remembered, but then I would fall completely into unconsciousness and do everything that a teenager does, a child, and went
Hmm.
really, really, really deep into people pleasing and wanting to be accepted. I had moved schools, so yeah, I became a personality that really wanted to be liked. Okay. And then let's fast forward. But I was always very spiritual. I used to go to retreats. I used to really, and life already worked with lots of serendipity and flow, but it wasn't, but it was with lots of an ups and downs as well. Like it wasn't
Hmm.
conscious, but it was
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
And I had lots of faith. However, what really was deep, Hannah, is I got pregnant. My dream was to be a mother. My son was a twin, and then one twin
Hmm.
died during the the pregnancy. I didn't really live that grief because I had to be happy. I was still pregnant with one.
Right.
So very
Right.
unconscious.
Mm.
I used to work as a marketing director, like 12 hours a day. I used to find it actually cool, like that I was very busy and very, it was quite a glam job. I used to, travel around the world. And then and I was really ready. Like I would, since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a mother. So that was like my big calling was the family, get married and be a mother. But I
Mhm.
think it was really unconscious because I went into labor. I had almost 10 centimeters dilated, and my son just wouldn't come down, wouldn't. I had a male in Brazil, they do lots of C-sections, and it was
Mhm.
like whole men working there. I never understood what happened, but basically I went into an emergency C-section and my
Mm.
son was born dead, actually, like,
Oh,
and
Gabby.
thank God, there was a pediatrician in the room
Hmm.
that managed to make my son relive. So he did manage. It must have been for seconds. Very traumatic what happened, and I never understood. No one told me about what had happened. He
Wow.
had to leave. I couldn't stay with him for the first day, but then, everything the next day. But everybody just treated it as if, that was just a big scare, but that's okay.
Mm.
And Hannah, that was the moment where things started to really become hard because my nervous system was in shock, but then I was a mother, all of my
Right.
traits of people pleasing and feeling guilty, and then I was a workaholic, so that everything started getting really confusing. And I started to fight life, actually. I was never aligned. And it got to a point that I was so, so, so hurt that a friend introduced me to this Reiki practitioner, the one I told you that said God within, God without. That was my first contact of like, there's hope. So I
Mm.
started to learn that, to teach that. But really, what became my turning point, and I love saying that, is that Hannah, I had this deep desire when I was little, when I was perhaps a teenager. I wanted to be a psychologist, a therapist. I already knew I wanted to work with people.
Hmm.
My father and lots of other people didn't think that was a good idea.
Hmm.
Um, so I didn't. And I had this desire that I'd go into a therapist session and they would look at me and say, "Why don't you become a therapist?" Like I wanted someone to look at me and say, "You should." And no one ever said that to me, actually, and I would tell you like all of those horrible stories of how poor, poor me. And no one said, like, "Why don't you become a therapist?"
Right.
And look what happened. So my son was, I don't know, a couple of months old, and I got to this bioenergetics therapist, and she had just arrived in Rio de Janeiro, and she was the only one who had this technique, and it was to do with reprogramming your subconscious mind.
Mm.
In my session with her, she looked at me, and I was so interested in everything she said, and she said, why don't you become a
Wow.
practitioner? I promise you that my whole soul went, "Whoa,
Yeah.
this
Uh-huh.
is it." So I knew
Ooh.
that was the moment. But what happens? Our mind plays a game. So I became like, oh no, this is a scam. She's a scam. Who says that in the first session? Why don't you become this? Like, but I knew in my soul that was. So I had a little bit of a struggle. But Hannah, do you believe? But I was really stuck in my victim mentality and consciousness. So I would say, I don't have money to pay for the courses. My
Mm.
husband is an entrepreneur, so I need the money and I have a little baby,
Mm.
blah, 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 all of the excuses. And you know what
Yeah.
happened? In 2 sessions, I get a call. I did literally 2 sessions with this lady. My soul telling me to go and my mind saying you shouldn't, but I did. I got a call from my boss, and I was one of only myself and someone else in the whole work. We got a bonus, and the bonus, the amount was exactly what paid
Oh.
courses for the course
Oh.
self-healing, the first part of the courses. It was
W-
exactly
Wow.
22 da 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 da. So I just remember just like
Mm.
thinking, okay, I'm all in. And that was the beginning of the biggest transformation of my life. And in 6 months, I just said goodbye to my corporate job and
Wow.
I went head in. And the level of bravery that I had to be like so courageous that actually that I was received with that energy back. So I had clients since day one. Yeah, and it's been quite
Wow.
successful since then.
That is such a powerful story. So yeah, you jumped in head first. 6 months
Mhm.
later. I love that. Oh my gosh. Um, so okay. So I know that that sounds easy to say, like, yeah, but like talk to me because we know that, creating an iconic life, it's not always a smooth journey, right?
No.
And yes, when we make a decision and we choose things, but even then, after we know, even when you know you're like, okay, I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right thing, I'm creating this iconic life, like I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be, I'm aligned, right? But still challenges come up, right? Life gives us opportunities to work through things. So, can you tell us about maybe an obstacle that tested you maybe the most as you were choosing this new identity, stepping to this new path, and maybe how did you decide to move through those challenges instead of letting them define you? And like, what strengths or lessons did you learn from those seasons?
Perfect. So to me, it was really clear. I had had lots of tricky relationships with bosses in my life, okay? And a lot of blaming, right? Blaming the environment, the corporation, work, hours, relationships, not not assuming, not bringing in the responsibility. And I remember the first week that I was paying for a practice room. Okay, so I had like my own session room and I had and there wasn't anyone because I said I had already six. I mean, I could pay for my bills, but I didn't have like many clients, right? It
Right, right.
started obviously in progression, but so I remember, Hannah, and that's so deep, and I really hope that someone might be listening and be in this place, and that's exactly what I did. I just looked at the couch, like the healing couch, and I just thought, this is it. And if it's going to go right, if this is going to be with success, it only depends on me. It only depends on myself. It's no more stories, no more blaming. And that was so tricky. You know why? Because I could feel it in my gut. It
Mm-hmm.
hurt. Like I could feel activating my solar plexus, like, how
Mm.
come I can't blame anyone? Like, it's you, it's you, it's you. And I would sit with that and I would go, even if I didn't have all of my clients, if I had only one client that day, I would go into the space as if I was already that really successful practitioner. And I would study and I would study and I would show up day after day and I would study and show up. And I had a little baby. And then I had my daughter as well after. I'd go, to masterminds and to courses. I'd take my mother or a nanny who would sit with her. She would come, would breastfeed and then would wait. I was like
Uh-huh.
all in.
I
So,
love
so what I can share from people is that yes, it was so scary,
it.
but like so scary. But there was this level of wanting to approach that, There was this
Hmm.
level of it was really no, my soul just knew it. So there was no turning back at that point. So I was like all in. That was one big moment, Hannah. I'm actually going through another one now, and I
Mm.
want to share because I think um, when I start feeling the imposter syndrome coming through, like the resistance, and to me, it's really in the body where I get almost foggy, mental fog, like
Mm-hmm.
the motivation becomes a little foggy. It literally your body gets an upper limit and it wants to freeze. This is what
Yeah.
happens to me. And I know about it because I've done it on and on and on. But sharing with all of you here is now I can acknowledge it. I know it's fear-based and I try
Hmm.
to really embrace myself. So I try not to um, use anything against me like I would in the past, especially with the voices, being really, really um, caring. I think that's the thing, how can I be compassionate with myself going through these seasons, going through these hardships, right?
Yeah. And being, I think something that I've learned it because I think we all go through these things, don't we? Right? Hitting that upper limit. We all do that. And like you even mentioned like the imposter syndrome, but it's like becoming a gentle observer of these things instead of making myself wrong for feeling it. I know that that's what I've have embraced doing because like I think we have our own inner critic, right? Like we can be quite vicious with ourselves. Actually, if you thought about the way you speak to yourself sometime, you would never speak to someone else like that, right? And when you play that back, like as if you were talking to someone else, I'd be like, oh, why am I being so harsh? So can I bring some gentleness into my self-talk and how I observe myself and what I'm experiencing and know that it's just being a curious observer of these feelings, these moments, and then allowing it myself to move through and like thinking and like being so empathetic and so loving and gentle with myself and all the parts of me that want to be scared and all the things, right? Um, and I think it's actually a very powerful space to be in when you can learn to love yourself through something that is the hard, right? And still support yourself even in that. I mean, I believe in also getting support from others as well, but like it's all about us and what we're doing, right? Like you had mentioned it earlier, like it's the within, right? It's like that's where we have to work and be solid and be grounded.
Absolutely. And I am really all about, and my work is let's stop fixing each other, because that's my background as a family. Because we were
Yeah.
always looking, for something to fix, as if I'm always have to
Mm.
fix. It's always my fault. There's always something that I'm not doing right, not doing right.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
self-love journey, in my signature programs and the work I do with my clients and in groups is falling back in love with ourselves through healing, like healing and leading in self-love. And so going
Mm.
through these moments, I use myself as a lab and I'm like, wow, okay, I get to go through this
Yeah.
again in this layer. And it's like, ow. And again, I remember that Gabby who sat, for the first time consciously aware that I had to take responsibility for this new career and it hurt.
Hmm.
But it helps also to, I feel, to me at least this phase, this cycle I'm going through is a lot of embracing through gentleness and the rhythm in my nervous system, so taking it easier
Mm-hmm.
than actually putting more things in because it's really it happens that I become really distracted and busy, and that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the energy I feel that I'm being called to.
Yes,
It's
I
like the
agree.
more, like
Yeah,
moving
no,
through,
that's
but
really important.
presence, yeah.
So it's actually it kind of going to segue into my next question for you because, again, when you're creating the iconic life, what does that look like for you in your day to day, right? Like not just the big things, the big launches, the big highlights, but like in the day to day, like what maybe what rituals do you do? What choices do you make? What values do you hold true? What boundaries do you set that help keep you anchored, keep you grounded, keep you focused and in the right energy? Like what are those things that you do on a daily basis to help you?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for asking this. I find it so important to hold the capacity, right? To hold our nervous system. So something I started this year, I'm on the Priestess Path. This is a program with Vanessa Lambert. She's also in the Vortex. That's how I heard of Shoshana, actually, through
Okay.
Vanessa Lambert. And she has in her vault over 200 classes of Kundalini yoga. So I wake up every morning. To be honest, today I didn't, but this was the first day in so many months that I didn't. But usually I wake up every single day around 5:30, 6 in the morning before the children. And that was a habit that was really hard to break. Like I really, used to be I had a whole different version of myself where I used to love just being in bed. So I
Yeah.
actually started this of like waking up before the children so that I could have this space. So I do
Hmm.
Kundalini yoga every morning. Now I have a portal called Overflow portal it's a program, a Telegram program with some clients from Brazil that I have. And I send inspirational voice notes
Okay.
10 to 15, 20 minutes daily. And I'll be doing this for the next 90 days. That was a commitment that I felt like I wanted to share because I really believe in this rewiring of our thoughts and minds. That's how I really reprogrammed a lot of my subconscious mind by, listening to constructive ideas, constructive
Hmm.
thoughts and people on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. And there's a lots of, I call it practical spirituality. So there's lots of spirituality, but in more practical sense. So this is kind of what I do in the morning, and then lots of cozy, cuddly times with the children, preparing breakfast,
That's
taking, taking them to school. Hannah, literally, my children live. No, they live with me. I mean, study 2 minutes across my street. So
oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's pretty iconic coming from Rio de Janeiro, a city where we'd take like 40 minutes in the traffic to
Oh,
drive to
right, right.
school. Just going in and out to school. This really is very iconic to me.
That's awesome.
Then I will probably go to the gym, go for a swim or a sauna. In winter, I have been, really taking care of that to my mood. I
Yeah.
actually have this thought that I also love to share that I used to work out in the beach, right? I used to live in Rio de Janeiro, sun the whole year, and now I'm in the UK. And it was really hard for me to associate going out for a run if the weather is gray and cold.
Ah, gotcha.
A-
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
then I actually switched like the perspective and decided to think that actually, if the weather is gray and cold, then that's my medicine is the exercise because I actually need to, work on my own hormones and the vitamins
Hmm.
and all of the things. So every day, if the weather isn't good, that's when I'm, have to go to the gym. So this
Yeah.
is what I find it important.
Yeah.
But the iconic life, I think, the thing that really makes alive everything is artist dates. Have you ever heard of the book, The Artist Way of Julia Cameron?
No, I have not. The
Do
artist way.
please. Yeah,
Okay.
the artist
Look
way.
up.
I didn't write it in that folder of yours in your email, but I really recommend it because it's a program for artists. And
Okay.
one of the things she says, because it's really right, how do you, get back in contact with your inspiration, with your creativity? And she recommends us to take ourselves on artist dates every week. So taking yourself like it's as if you're going on a date with yourself. So I love doing that, going to London and then booking really nice exhibitions and just going for a lovely and by myself, like going for a lunch and going, for coffee with lovely podcasts and, with my
Mm.
my journal out. So I'd say, Hannah, that for the past couple of years, really falling in love with being with myself and finding, these precious little moments of a nice tea, a nice
Hmm.
cake, and a soup that's really special. And just
Love
to
that.
add, I know I loved speaking and I've been going on and on, but it's because
No, I
this
love it.
question has so much, to share and offer, is that I realized that actually to get to the stage where I want to in my mission, it was very important to be living this more simple life in the countryside here in the UK. I have lots and lots of friends in Brazil. I had a very sociable life, and if I were in London as well, where I could go out from Monday to Monday, plus wanting to be with the children and activities and everything, and then my
Right.
husband and the whole life,
The busyness.
the
Mm.
busyness.
Yes.
And saying no to that was always very hard. But I
Mm-hmm.
did start, but it was hard. And however, here in the life I chose, it's it's different. It's as if it's a life that really fits into who I want to be, who I want to become, and the level of what I want to share. And then I
Mm.
get to choose when I want to interact, go out to London, to parties, to socialize. So I think this was a
Yeah.
very big shift in in my life to really carry, the frequencies and the code
That's
for
beautiful. I love what you said about like taking yourself on a date and like, or even like self-care. It is one of like such a big part of my, like a pillar of what I teach, right? Because I think that we have done not well with that as women in historically and in society, right? Like it's so often we've done all the things on our own, right? Like there's been a little bit of almost like a celebration of being a self-made whatever, right? Or being the boss woman or being all these things like, oh, we can do it all. We can do it all. And we know that that is not, in fact, the truth. You can do it all maybe for a little bit of time, but then you will, burn out and or not be satisfied with your life at all in the long haul of it. And so one of my big things I teach is like coming from a place of overflow, right? I have my icon method, and the O stands for overflow, which is it can apply to business, but in life in particular, like creating those beautiful spaces of self-care. And that's why I have like my retreats that I do. I have my one coming up next month, but where it is just like you're coming to this space, we call it rest and renew, like to be poured into, to like just be loved on and taken care of in the most luxurious setting, most beautiful space, amazing food, like from top to bottom, everything is just exquisite, right? Because we deserve that. We need that. And like, let's be spoiled in that, right? Like, let's spoil ourselves a little bit and like just like celebrate it and revel in it because we're worth it. Or going to the gym or going to the sauna, like these little things, but it all builds up and builds this like beautiful structure for us to run our life off of, right? You're not going from empty. You're filling yourself up so that you can then just overflow. I use that word. That's actually my challenge this month is overflow October, right? Like you're just pouring out from an abundance, right? You have so much to offer because I think we, specifically as women, we do that, right? We do nurture, we do take care of those around us. But I think oftentimes we have decided to do it from a place of depletion because that's what we do. We're a mom, we're this, we're that, right? And that's like I'm no longer here for that old way of doing things. So we're here for the new paradigm where we are building in support and we are resourced and we are filling ourselves up. And so I love the fact that you do that so wholeheartedly and strategically. It looks like so, like like you're consistent about that. And yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I hope that the women who are listening to this like take that to heart, right? We need to start building our self-care into our every day so that we can then pour into our families, our work, our communities, all the things. So I love
Absolutely.
that.
This is exactly like I love that we both work with overflow concepts because
Yeah.
that's a lot of the heart of also of what I believe because that was how I managed to heal so much was you know why I have a very good metaphor for that is that it's as if imagine that we are a car and then we're going to drive all the way. So I don't know, from here to Scotland, okay, where I live. And then I go to the petrol station and I say, okay, but just put a $10 of petrol. And then okay, and then you put 10 and then you're going to go and then at some point it's going to stop. And what we do lots of times, women that are in the depletion, that are still in the lack, that still are, you know, feeling that they don't have time or space for themselves, they'll probably go back into the petrol, put less on, and actually go
Right.
further. So, you know, we start taking like more and more
Yes.
goals to go further, further, more kilometers, putting less,
Yes.
petrol in. So
It's not sustainable.
it's not, and that's where everything finished. So to me, it's like, you know, a whole abundance of petrol. Take stops in the middle of the way. Go and look and contemplate, and you know, look at the stars and everything,
Yes.
and just
I
enjoy
actually
the
love
ride.
that analogy because like if you think about it, like if you're only putting in what, $10 worth of petrol, right? You're gonna have to find a place that's not scheduled, right? You're gonna have to be a little bit more of the like I want to say the reactive kind of space, like I gotta find a place now because I'm running out of gas, right? Whereas opposed to like if you fill the tank up and you know, hey, I know that I'm gonna reach, let's say this big city in in 4 hours time or 5 hours time when I will be able to get there because I have a full tank, right? And then I can stop, I can, it's scheduled, I can fill my tank back up and then keep going again and go farther and and like and that's beautiful because it actually kind of plays into like when you were saying that I was like oh like we can schedule ourselves like you already do, right? Like you schedule this self-care and because it keeps you going, right? You don't have to you don't have to be reactive, you don't have to be emergently trying to find a place for rest or whatever, like because you have a full tank. So I love that.
And
Good
especially in the
analogy.
mornings, right? And you know, mainly lots of people say, Hannah, oh no, tomorrow is going to be very, very busy. So I don't know if I'm going to have to skip Kundalini, let's suppose, or skip
Mm,
meditation because I'm busy. Then that's exactly when I say the opposite. So
yes,
then you need more. And
that's when
that's,
you
I
need
think,
it.
that's when actually we need it. So if you're in a really busy day, if you know that next week you're going to have your in-laws home and you're going to have lots of parties to do and Thanksgiving and whatever, like, yes. So
Yes.
do organize properly the petrol, do organize properly, wake up earlier, do a little bit extra
Yeah.
current in that energy to fulfill yourself. And
Yes.
don't go into the lack or the ego of thinking that, yeah, so, and just,
I can
right.
do it from empty. Yeah, no, exactly. That's so powerful. Like put in the big things that matter, self-care or whatever. Put those big things in first and then all the little busyness things, they'll fit in, right? Like they'll find their way in because they will, right?
Will,
But put those
quantum as well, right?
put
As
those
we
big things. Yeah, exactly, right? But put the big things, the things that matter must be done first. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so I mean, you definitely have chosen to live a beautiful, iconic life that is different from just the norm. I love that. But also in your business, you're like even you're leading and differently, right? You're leading your business iconically as well, right? So like tell us a little bit about like what with your work, what ripples have you seen that you were just so proud of creating, the overflow, whatever it is, but like what are the benefits or the work that you're doing? What are you seeing, the ripples that you're seeing in your work, in your family even, right? Or your community? Like what are you most proud of and like how do you see your calling evolving as you come into this new season?
Wow, Hannah. So it couldn't be even fresher that actually yesterday, I went to a session, a sound healing with sound healing with breath work session of a client of mine that started working a year ago here in the UK. So to think that 2 years ago I said yes, divinely guided, to move country, continents with children,
Mm,
completely different atmosphere, code like it was so hard. My son did not adapt to his first school, so we had to move. So we went through lots of
lots of
hardships. It was
challenges.
so hard. However, I kept going with the mission, believing in what I did and loving. And I had to step down a little bit with the clients because of family life as well. In that moment, in that circumstance, that's where I chose to put the energy where I had to. But then this beautiful lady, we've worked so together a lot, and she's in my mentorship as well. And then yesterday she hosted the sound healing here in the community village, and there were over 25 women there. Many of them have perhaps had never done any type of self-care work, and they were there.
Wow,
And she
that's
was the one
beautiful.
who opened, and so that was it was a beautiful ripple effect in the sense of, wow, I said yes from Brazil here, right? So I think this one is what I want to share because this was from yesterday. So that's
That is
definitely
so powerful. I love that. Yeah, the ripples that we don't even know, right? That are coming. It's oh, I love that. So exciting, actually, right? Because sometimes I think we're doing our work, we're doing the things, and sometimes when you are maybe in a little bit of a churning, having to be an observer of those feelings and emotions, you're like, what can sometimes hold us like, hey, one, you're all, maybe you're at the edge of a breakthrough. That's great, but then two, like, you have no idea if it's just the one person that you reach who then will reach like the ripple effect of the stuff that we're doing. And that's pretty powerful, right? Because we don't even know the effect that our work is going to have in so many people's lives, right? And so it's such an honor to be able to do these things, truly.
it truly is. It
Yeah.
truly is. And it's if there's something that I want to tell myself and to people here listening is how can we take ourselves out, our ego, our
Mm,
interferences, our doubts, our fears out of the mission
yes.
calling because it's there. Like, there's this innate intelligence already that's doing all the healing. There is already, right, the power. And actually, it's as if we allow it, right?
Yeah.
Allow our souls to do the healing, allow it. It's more about the permission. I work a lot
Yes.
with, I think this is a powerful word, permission, us women, like giving
Mm-hmm.
ourselves permission to be an iconic, and to live iconic lives. And
And to embrace that fully and
yeah,
I say fully and unapologetically, but that, it's permission. Oh, I love that actually, because you're allowing yourself, you're allowing that to come in. Or I would say like learning to receive that because, there's something to be said about opening yourself up to what you like what you're being called to do, that new identity. It can be a little overwhelming too, right? And if you want to try to control it, it doesn't work very well, number one. But that's part of it. Like, you have to learn to allow it to be, to permit it to do its work. Um, yeah, I like that word, permission. So good. All right. Well, this has been a powerful conversation, Gabby. Again, thank you so much for just taking the time out of your beautiful life to talk with us. So, for someone who's listening today, who's maybe feeling that little bit of a tug, that remembrance, that little voice that they've kept quiet in the back that they haven't yet stepped fully into creating their iconic life, what is a truth that you'd want them to hold on to? Or maybe what is a small, brave step that you would lovingly challenge them to take?
Wow, beautiful question. Um, I'd say for them to keep hope, work on hope, because hope is what literally pulls us to our vision, will pull us to our next step. I really
Mm,
love the idea of working with this energy of hope, you know. So you don't have to have evidence already, but have hope. Work on that, like that
yeah.
faith, that hope. I think starting
Hmm.
to use your imagination and be close to people that do have these frequencies, listening, you know, to podcasts like this one and being
Yeah.
around more people that actually carry that idea of hope where we get to create differently.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd say that, and something that I would perhaps challenge if you're listening and if this is really resonating with you, I'd say begin by enrolling yourself in, you know, some healing technique that you feel called to, or a mentorship you feel called to, or for a program. Literally
Yeah.
begin to think different thoughts for you to rewire your brain and your programming. We have, you know, there's some people that say 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day where we rethink the
Wow.
same thoughts more than 80%, sometimes even 90% a day. We have the same types of
Wow.
thoughts. So if you want to change your reality, to change things in your life, you have to change how you do things in your life, right? And it's
Hmm.
obvious, but it all starts with your thoughts. So
True.
rewiring, you know, listening and being constructive. And then, but as you said, the challenge of an action. So you're listening, that's preparing yourself, but then bringing in the action, right? Putting your skin in the game by, you know, investing in some program and someone. And literally, yeah, that's how I would begin. Definitely just
Yeah.
tapping into that, you
I
know,
love that.
truth and open space. And I love the idea, as we were talking a lot about overflow, right? The cup full, so it's overflowing.
Hmm.
There's a beautiful thing. There are two things that might happen. When you're overflowing, at some point, there's so much coming in as well. It's overflow that you end up clearing what's dirty in the bottom because you're overflowing.
Yes.
So out of a time, like you're giving, you're in this abundance giving, you start to clear. But there's also another process that sometimes to bring in new thoughts, new ideas, you have to actually empty all of the cup. So empty all of those, you know, belief systems that you don't believe in, and I mean that are not useful. So you just
Hmm. Hmm.
empty the whole cup, creates
Yeah.
that space for you to nurture again, right? And yeah,
Go
so
back up from there.
yeah,
Yeah.
from that, that's a lot of the work I do with the chakra systems and the healing of literally like how do we go back into the basics in the in the yeah, going from survival to safety in your body and
Mm. Wow.
so yeah, that's
So
it.
good. So actually, speaking of that, what do you have? Like, do you have any thing that you're launching right now or interested, like welcoming people into, and where can people find you online?
Oh, thanks, Hannah. So there's my Instagram at Gabriela CAPD, and then my site gabrielaclayton.com.
Okay.
But one of the things that are for me, that's where I find it, I struggle a little bit, and it's what I'm working more on, is actually having to do content and being more proactive in that sense, because I've always been working with people by referrals. So people that know me refer, so I have never have to actually actively be in the
Yeah.
process about. So this is something I'm doing more, and so I'm really grateful to be in podcasts, and I'm also doing my own podcast, like to really open up more branches for people to listen to what I have to say. But
Hmm.
what I have, and you're going to be the first one to know here, is that I'm finishing structuring my I Overflow training self-regulation program. So it's I Overflow,
Oh.
and it's training for yourself to self-regulate your emotional body, your mental body, and your spiritual bodies. So that's also with biosynchronization technique together with intuitive energies, feminine, you're learning Akashic records. So it's going to be are very
Wow.
powerful. And then people who want to follow, they can go into the certification after. So this is now
Okay.
my body of work. I still haven't launched. I don't have a date. But if anybody is interested, just send me a DM or a message and I'll be happy
Beautiful.
to connect.
Yay. Okay. Yes. All right. So that's beautiful. And we'll put all of your contact info and everything in the show notes as well. So you can get in touch with Gabby.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
my dears.
I wanted
So
to chat so much more. So
I
good.
know, right? I know we could do sessions on this, right?
Yeah.
Honestly. It's been such a great conversation. But I do have a couple fun questions I was gonna like to close out with. I'd like to ask all my guests. So, which um favorite drink or food that you are enjoying right now?
Japanese food always. I'll always go for some sushi. I love.
Yum.
And drink, I definitely say I'm actually in a phase of non-alcoholic alcohol,
Hmm.
non-alcoholic drinks, and so sometimes I'll have a beer, non-alcoholic
Mm-hmm.
beer, like a Saint or something like that, just to, yeah, it just gives me the vibe and the buzz without actually needing to take my
Without having the
consciousness
alcohol.
away.
Right, exactly. I
So I
love
think
it.
that's it now. Yeah.
Are you a tea or coffee person?
Oh, that's hard. Mornings, coffee, definitely. Afternoons, nights, herbal tea. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, I'm both.
I'm actually the same. I'm definitely I love my good coffee in the morning, but I also love a good tea, herbal tea generally, yeah, in the afternoon or evening. It's lovely. All right. Okay, dream vacation spot on your bucket list or maybe one that you're planning already. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so okay, bucket list, let's say Egypt now. Basically,
Mm,
there is this trip, a retreat from the 1st
yeah.
of November to the 12th of November. I do not have the resources and the abundance yet to go because what I want, but just by sharing it with you, I'm calling it in.
Uh-huh.
Who
So we create
knows?
value where we want it.
Let's
I'm a big
create
believer
it.
in that. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Hannah. So we're on
Uh-huh.
it. So this is
Hmm.
it. Egypt.
Beautiful.
And Egypt is quite funny because I've I've definitely had other lives there. I feel very connected, but it wasn't time to go. When I see people going, I was like one day, one day, one day, and then suddenly
Mm,
this trip now in November, it was the first time I was like, I'm ready. So if it's
okay.
not now, but it will be, right?
Yeah.
I'm happy to come back here from when
Because they were looking for the miracle. I want to hear about it. That's right. Okay, and then finally, what one book, and actually I guess you gave me one, The Artist's Way, 'cause I'm gonna look that up now, but a favorite book that you are currently reading or just finished, or even a podcast that you are really enjoying that you would recommend.
Okay, book always of my life is The Seats of the Soul by Gary Zukav. I super recommend everyone. He's a Harvard teacher, professor, but talks very profoundly about spirituality, but it's very intelligent. It was written in the end of 1980s or 90s, so
Okay.
it's it's not that recent, but actually it's still really alive.
Yeah. Okay.
So I recommend that book. And a podcast is Kiara Nalla, the Soul Alignment Podcast. I think it's the name.
Okay.
And I love how practical she is with tips. So people who are really interested in spirituality. And my podcast, that's actually not as professional as yours. It's
Oh,
still there, but whoever is interested, it's called the Soul Portal
the Soul
Podcast.
Portal. Okay.
I have
Yeah.
about three or four episodes only.
Love
And
it. Okay. Yay. Ooh, all right. Well, Gabby, again, thank you so much for joining us today, for just lighting up our space here today with your beautiful presence. I'm truly grateful. Um, and then, well, like I said, we'll put all your contact info in the show notes so people can get in contact with you and whatnot. But I'm very excited to kind of see your next steps and where you're going in this new launch that you've got coming up. So we'll be here watching, and encouraging and celebrating. I'm all about celebrating and championing women and men who are doing amazing things around the world. I know we kind of chatted about that a little bit before we hit record, but like it's so incredible to meet amazing individuals who are doing work and, creating light. So, you guys, thank you again for joining us today at the Iconic Life podcast. If today's conversation with Gabby and I stirred something in you, guys, share this episode, leave us a review, come connect with us online. Like, we'd love to hear from you. Both Gabby and I know that we are all open to that. But remember, you guys, an iconic life isn't built in the someday. It's chosen today and every day. So until next time, keep living boldly, joyfully, and iconically. Thank you guys for being here.